Welcome back. You're still watching Business Morning on Channels Television, and we're broadcasting live from Lagos, Nigeria. Today on the program, our conversation is going to be on the new automobile policy, and we're going to be revisiting some of the issues and challenges. Of course, if you joined me at the start of the program, I did mention that some people have actually had issues with it, particularly the licensed customs agent and the freight forwarders. So I'm being joined on the program today by the Vice President, Licensed Customs Agent, Mr. Don Onyeka, and Dr. Ikenna Nwosu. He's a member, Freight Forwarders Group of the Lagos Chamber of Commerce and Industry. Good morning, gentlemen, and thank you so much for coming in.
Good morning.
Let me start with you, Mr. Onyeka. Why the protest? Why the issue? Why do the licensed custom agents have a problem with this policy?
Thank you. We reacted because it was absurd, because last year government said by January this year they would implement that. So we met them and told them this is not right. We will do that, but let them work it out with us. So they agreed. Before we know it, they implemented this in before the time it's supposed to be implemented. They said by June. But sometime in May, we got that introduced into the customs systems. And then when we applied our AGDs, we found out that they had increased duty, and nobody could give us a quality reply. So we said it's absurd. It's not planned.
But before the government, came out with that date, I'm sure there must have been a stakeholders meeting with the required, parties, the parties that are supposed to be concerned in this matter, to get their views on it. So you're saying that it was sudden negates that, because definitely government will not go ahead, at least now that we're trying to see as much as possible how we can improve the economy, will not go ahead and take a decision that will affect the economy, that is, in a negative way.
Yeah, last November, they sent circular that they would implement this in early this year. So we looked at it and said, okay, and we sent our members to government representatives saying that this is okay, but it needed to be phased into time, it needed to be spread over time. So we were working on that premise before we now found out they now understood us as, okay, by June this year, they will do that. You understand? We have been consulting with them, but I was surprised that they did it earlier than scheduled. Now, from May, they have started implementing that 5% rate of duty on all imports. And say by July, they would introduce levy on Tokumbo vehicles. And then this month, June, they started implementing on new products. So these are things we've got worried about, because this thing ought to be taken. We are not against government. It's a good idea. It's quite good. Our country should be productive, not just consuming. But the idea of just running into it without spacing it out, spreading, for instance, putting plants that should produce the parts, produce some things, or, we'll have it working. So as people will be able to abide into the government policy, that's our being. And then looking at it, if they do it automatically, they want to do it. People who had invested into that importation of vehicles would be stranded, because I know a lot of people that are not resident in the country who are other countries. They bring in their funds through this importation. And some of them had bought these things over years and put in the yard to import into the country. And now the thing would put them to disarray.
Dr. Nwosu, do you share the same thoughts, or are yours a little different from what Mr. Onyeka said?
I share his thoughts and more. Thank you for giving us this opportunity to talk about this, because let's look at the larger picture. There's an economic transformation plan on ground. The president launched an industrial revolution master plan, and the Nigerian automotive industry development plan, which is what has been implemented, is an aspect of the national industrial revolution plan. So at the level of the chamber, we looked at it holistically. We understand the reasons. There are two primary aims for this policy. One is to develop the local assembly of vehicles, and the other is to develop local content. We agree with the aims.
And create jobs as well.
Yes, the expected benefits, job creation, economic linkages, saving foreign exchange, and the like. There is one major problem. Stakeholder engagement. Before that policy was formulated, was not all-encompassing.
But Mr. Onyeka just said that they actually, they knew about it and so sent in their thoughts, saying that there should be an extension so that every part of this policy will be looked at by all parties concerned.
He said, we received the circular in November, and then we made our comments known. At that time, they had made the policy. They are talking of now implementing. So the policy formulation, we have always emphasized, should be public-private stakeholders and even social enterprise, the CSOs. Let everybody be involved. Dialogue to design. We agreed there was some stakeholder engagement, but it was not complete. However, the policy is there, and we are saying there are several aspects of that policy that are wrong or that need to be adjusted. But the current focus is on the fiscal aspect of the policy implementation. That is the circular that was published. In the first place, you make passenger vehicles 70%. That's a 35% duty and a 35% levy. Then you make commercial vehicles 35% without levy. And then you make special purpose vehicles 35% as well, no levy. Now the question is there any company in this country that assembles or manufactures special purpose vehicles? Let's start from there. Firefighters, cranes, derricks, drilling equipment. These are specialized vehicles. Ambulances. You don't have that. What is the essence of increasing the duty to 35%? It doesn't make sense. Then, commercial vehicles was the language used for 35% increase. And I believe the circumscribed opinion was buses and pickups. But actually, when you look at all the HS codes covered, because that was a very bad drafting, you have even wheelbarrows. You have trailers, tankers. At the back of the trailers, trucks, tippers. Are they being manufactured in this country? The one in Bauchi is not doing that.
What about Innocent?
Innocent is trying. He cannot meet the demand.
But you see, that's the reason why this policy, I guess, was actually put in place to encourage more companies to become like Innocent, to get up and look at the market, look at that gap that we have. The only way you can actually encourage in-house or, let's say, local or domestic production is to prevent or stop, production from coming from the outside. How else will you begin to find out what exactly do you need to do in your house if it's not clearly put out for you? You know that there's a challenge. You know that there's a shortfall. And the only way we can achieve that closing of that gap is by shoring up our own, domestic production.
Agreed. I studied that policy back to back on behalf of the chamber. It puts the vehicle demand in Nigeria at about 1 million a year vehicles. Definitely, supply cannot meet it. Like my colleague said, if you are going to develop the local industries, you should not overnight strangulate those who are doing the importation, because it's a roller coaster effect. They have families, they have businesses, they have loans taken. And the banks will look at this and say another government sudden policy change. So it should be phased. You know that the 1 million vehicle demand of the Nigerian public cannot be met overnight, even if you outrightly ban the importation of vehicles. So you phase it. I looked at the plan. There's a short term, 2013 to 2015, 2016 to 2018, 2019 to 2024. And we looked at the objectives, short term, medium term, and long term. But we believe that in the short term, the way it is phased for the vehicle assemblers, that they can bring in fully built vehicles in the short term, twice the quantity of their CKD and SKD imports. In the medium term, they can bring in equal to their CKD and SKD importation. Then by the long term, 2019 to 2024, I think they can bring in 0.5% of that. Now, if you are phasing it for the assemblers, why are you not phasing it fully for the vehicle importers and the general public?
So
Because
that's the
that's
issue.
one of the issues, yes. Because in the medium term, they said, the policy said the levy, instead of 35% duty, 35% levy, the levy will be reduced to 20% between 2016 to 2018. We said no. Let the phasing start from the short-term period.
Okay.
Down this way. Because it's too sudden. So if you look at it, you need to balance. You want to develop the vehicle assembly plant locally. They will gradually meet demand. Then you do almost an immediate destruction of the existing motor assembly, motor importation value chain. It's not one person, not one set of people, it's a value chain. That is not the right way to do it.
Okay.
Because those people will turn out of businesses, and the banks will say, no, we are even going to be circumspect to even finance the assembly plant because we don't know tomorrow whether they are going to change the policy.